Shemini Atzeret and Simchat Torah is coupled together. The day in of itself, 22nd of Tishrei, and naturally in the diaspora, in all the other countries outside of Israel, there are separate holidays in of itself. So obviously, it's celebrated on the 22nd day of the Hebrew month Tishrei. Its culmination follows the festival of Sukkot, which obviously is celebrated for 7 days. So Shemini Atzeret is literally the eighth day of gathering, let's just say, in of itself. Now, outside the land of Israel, we said before, it's an extra day, as we've said, and that's a whole reason unto itself, which we're not going to talk about at this specific point in time. So what's the biblical origins within regards to this? I think it's found in various different parts, let's just say, inside the liturgy, inside the Talmud, it talks about it. Atzeret is given actually as a 7th day of Pesach, interesting enough, which is very, very interesting. And the name Atzeret is a name given to this day in 4 different locations, I believe, inside the Torah. And it's Atzeret, it means a day of assembly, let's say, or Atzar. That could be the terminology used also, and very, very interesting. Now, the 8th day of Sukkot, Shemini means number 8 over here, and it's mentioned in the Torah and on various different places. I think, for example, in Parshat Emor, if I recollect, in Sefer Vayikra, chapter 23, verses 33 to 43. I think Shemini Atzeret is mentioned in the verses of 36 and 39 respectively, and it refers to 8. Now, the referral to the date of Shemini Atzeret, let's say relative to Sukkot, it falls out on the latter's 8th day, let's just say, in itself respectively. The celebration of Sukkot is obviously characterized, we know, by the Sukkah, which I'm in at the moment, the 4 species, and very much so. The observance of Shemini Atzeret differs in very similar ways to Sukkot. The Talmud describes Shemini Atzeret with the words a holiday on its own right. Now, what's the terminology, first of all, with regards to that? I think it's in Masechet Sukkah on page 148. It's called Regel Bifnei Atzmo, which is very, very interesting. Now, the Talmud describes 6 ways in which Shemini Atzeret differs from Sukkot, the differences in regards to them. 4 of these relate principally to the temple service, the Bet HaMikdash, but 2 others remain relevant to, let's say, the current celebrations of the day, respectively. First, the blessing known as Shechianu is recited on the night of Shemini Atzeret, just as it's on the first day of major Jewish festivals. Second, the holiday is referred to as Shemini Atzeret and not as Sukkot, especially in the prayer service, as we say. Now, obviously, very, very interesting. We recite Psalms also, the book of Psalms, Hallel, Psalms 113 to 118 also. And it's, as we said before, a holiday on its own right. So it's a day of assembly. It's an Atzeret. Guard the 7 days of Sukkot, it can be seen as. Now, the Hebrew word Atzeret means assembly, as we said before. And very, very interesting. I think Shemini Atzeret is characterized as a day when the Jewish people tarries to spend an additional day with God at the end of Sukkot. Now, that is actually, I think, coming from, that's what, I'm not too sure if that was a biblical thing or rabbi or scholar actually wrote that in its own right. It's a universal holiday, obviously, Sukkot is, one Shalosh Regalim, and we know that it's actually all the nations of the world benefit from that day in of its own right. But Shemini Atzeret is only for the Jewish people, let's just say, in of itself. And it honors God's special relationship with Hashem and the brilliant people. And very, very interesting. Now, there was a famous Ashkenazic commentator, someone named Rabbi Yaakov Tzvi Mecklenburg, who translates Atzeret as retain over here. I think he was the author of the Torah commentary called the Haketev V'Kabbalah, I believe. I haven't heard much about him before, but very, very interesting. I think he actually came from Posen in Germany, if I'm not mistaken. And so that's very interesting. I think it was close to Melbourne also, so that's what he will translate it as. Now, obviously, there's connections, obviously, between Shemini Atzeret, Simchat Torah, to Hoshana Rabbah. Hoshana Rabbah is obviously unique and also is different from other days of Sukkot, albeit it's a day of Sukkot itself. We went 7 times around the Torah, today around the Bima, and very much, let's just say, enjoy that. Now, let's say the various different customs came about with in regards to Shemini Atzeret. I think the Torah itself mentions Shemini Atzeret 3 times, all in the context of Sukkot, as we stated before. 2 observances of Shemini Atzeret are written in the prophets and writings in the portions of Torah, Nevi'im, and Ketuvim. The first occurred at the time of the dedication of the Bet HaMikdash by Solomon, King Solomon. The second came at the time when the Jews returned from Babylonian exile. Very interesting enough. So, Shemini Atzeret is, very interesting. Simchat Torah, we know that it's coupled today with the same day as Shemini Atzeret. The practice of reading V'zot HaBracha is basically on this day. It's the Talmudic source does not refer to the occasion as Simchat Torah, but simply as the second day of Shemini Atzeret, let's just say, or as Shemini Atzeret. And the Simchat Torah celebration of today is of latter, I believe, rabbinic and customary origin. The day is mentioned in the Siddur of Rabbi Amram Gaon. He was a 9th century scholar. Very interesting enough, we've mentioned him before. And the assignment of the first chapter of Joshua as the Haftarah of the day is mentioned over here. So that's another historical context. I think by the 16th century Common Era, most of the features of the modern celebration of Simchat Torah were in place in some form, respectively. And very, very interesting. So that happens to be joyous this year. We see the return of the hostages, and albeit the end of the war, that's been 2 years since Simchat Torah in 2023. And so various different. Let's just talk about different maybe observances. Some people might, or different communities have different ways of different customs have evolved all throughout the time period in of itself. We know that Psalm 27 is recited in many of I think all the Ashkenazi communities twice daily, starting from the beginning of Elul, and it continues to be recited on Shemini Atzeret outside the land of Israel. When Shemini Atzeret falls on Shabbat, I believe Kohelet is read, I think, by the Ashkenazi communities. I'm not too sure that every place has different customs with regards to Kohelet and so on and so forth. Now, but we don't, that's very interesting. So we also partake, we leave the sukkah itself on this specific day, itself. And other customs came. I think the land of Israel's agriculture obviously depends heavily on rains that come only seasonally. So Jewish prayers for rain, such as Tfilat Geshem, Tikkun Geshem, are prominent during the land of Israel's rainy winter half of the year. The rainy season starts just after the fall of the Jewish holidays. Because of that, and because the Sukkah, let's say, is no longer required on Shemini Atzeret, Jewish people begin to praise God for making rain, starting with the Musaf prayer, the Amidah, the Shemini Atzeret. Ashkenazic tradition, this prayer is recited in a traditional, let's say, plaintive melody during the Chazan's repetition of the Amidah, according to original custom, respectively, over here. So there's other observances, let's just say, that have gone so on and so forth. Let's explore a bit more within regards to Shemini Atzeret, within regards to if there's any specific Sephardic traditions, just using Sephardic U website over here. We know that we mentioned about Shemini Atzeret being the source in verse number 36 in chapter 23, where work is obviously prohibited and offerings are made. The term Atzeret suggests both a communal gathering and a divine pause, a spiritual invitation to linger in holiness after the exuberance of Sukkot, respectively. Some sources, I believe, will connect it to the culmination of the harvest, linking the physical cycle of the land with spiritual nourishment over here. Now, rituals on Simchat Torah will include the Hakafot, where Torah scrolls are carried and circled around the synagogue while singing joyful songs. Now, Sephardic communities often include melodies in Ladino or Judeo-Arabic. Ashkenazic will sing in Hebrew, or maybe some songs even in Yiddish, if I'm not mistaken, and involves family Hakafotas, community participation, emphasizing unity, joy, and continuing of Torah learning, let's just say, in of itself. So there's different Sephardic versus Ashkenazic practices over here. Let's just explore some of the differences. For example, prayers for rain, it's called Tfilat Geshem. The Sephardic practices, let's just say, I'm just using the notes here from the Sephardic Q website, poetic puritim, often with Ladino or Judeo-Arabic melodies emphasizing reflection and thanksgiving. But the Ashkenazic might differ in traditional Eastern European tunes. It slightly differs in textual, but serves the same agricultural purpose. Simchat Torah Kafot, 7 Hakafot with family participation. Ladino or Judeo-Arabic, enhanced communal joy. But Ashkenazic, you could say, is 7 Hakafot with great, vigorous dancing. Torah scrolls carried energetically. I think sometimes it's reported over here, an 8th Hakafa is added. I'll need the sources. Liturgical variations include special puritim reflecting joy of Torah, meditative approaches to prayers among the Sephardic practices. Traditional Ashkenazic liturgy sang in Hebrew and Yiddish, as mentioned before, the Sukkah practices. Meals in Sukkah concluded after Sukkot. It focused let's say, the shift to Shemini Atzeret prayers at that point in time. However, in the Ashkenazi community, similar conclusion of Sukkot observance focused on Shemini Atzeret specific prayers and synagogue rituals. I think the Torah reading, special aliyot emphasize rain and blessing, poetic or melodic recitation, and the Ashkenazic, it's written here, readings differ slightly. Additional responsive readings sometimes included for Simchat Torah. Now, musical traditions, obviously in Ladino and Judeo-Arabic among Sephardic communities, and Eastern European melodies are used in the Ashkenazic communities more. And it's interesting, community emphasis, you could say, is family engagement and communal singing are central, but in Ashkenazi communities, you could say it's more synagogue-centered celebration with dancing and formal liturgical responses, let's just say. Interesting other facts. Spiritual and significance of Shemini Atzeret, actually stated over here, is that it's a time, not only a continuation of Sukkot, but also a day of introspection. Obviously, divine closeness, gratitude, and renewal over the prayer for rain, Tfilat Geshem, symbolizes both physical and sustenance. Sephardic liturgy emphasizes meditation and the poetic expression, respectively, as we stated before. Obviously, there's other interesting facts. It represents lingering in holiness after Sukkot, these festivals do. They say in some Sephardic communities, special meals, including dishes associated with harvest and Thanksgiving, is associated. Children participation strengthens continuity of tradition, and very much so. And it's a day of reflection, joy. It combines the spiritual depth of Sukkot with its own unique traditions. Now, Sephardic traditions highlights, let's just say, in family participation, poetry, and so on and so forth. There's other excellent guides with regards to Simchat Torah, which is actually used over here on Sephardic U website over here. But very, very interesting. They've got a lot of excellent different sources that I would recommend people to look at. And that's interesting. Now we can look at more of the halacha with regards to the practice of Shemini Atzeret and Simchat Torah over here. This is one of the plans that we're looking to do. But yeah, very, very interesting over here. So there's actually a special nusachim for different Sephardic communities. That's something that we have to point out with regards to this specific day. That's we know that Simchat Torah begins with the evening service. Obviously, Torah scrolls are removed from the ark and are carried around the sanctuary. 7 hakafot, as we said before. Each hakafa needs to encompass only one circuit around the synagogue, but many will keep going. Morning festivities, let's just say. Obviously, there's a Hallel, there's a Musaf service, Amida, which we spoke about before. In most Eastern Ashkenazi communities, one deviation from an otherwise ordinary holiday morning service is a performance of Birkat Kohen, the priestly blessings over here. And the Torah readings and customs, we will say V'zot HaBracha, which is at the end of Deuteronomy, this is the book of Devarim, chapter 33 to chapter 34, verse 12. Over there. And then many will start saying the start of Bereshit till chapter 2, verse number 3, also respectively. There's other, let's just say, honoraries that are given on this specific day. There's a Chatan Torah, the Torah groom. Also, initially it was a Hotem Torah, I believe, the Torah completer. And the term shifted in the medieval and now signifies a more titled honoree, let's just say, so then the Chatan Bereshit, the Genesis groom. And in synagogues, very, very interesting in of itself. So that is another extra thing to say. There's custom to call all the children, especially in Orthodox congregations, just the boys obviously, to special aliyat called the Kol HaNe'arim, all the children. A large talit is spread over the heads of many of the children, and the blessing over the Torah is pronounced. The congregation blesses the children by reciting a verse from Yaakov's blessing to Ephraim and Menashe, featured in Sefer Bereshit, chapter 48, verse 16 over here. So that's something we've spoken about also on various occasions. I think after the portion of Bereshit is read, the Maftir on the book of Numbers, chapter 29, verses 35 to chapter 30, verse 1 is read, and the Haftorah is the first section of the book of Joshua, respectively. Celebration and dancing, modern customs of celebration, especially came from the Rishonic period. Rabbi Isaac ibn Gayat, I think between 1030 to 1089, writes in a book called Mea Shurim. They asked, hey, Shira, I think about those who won't, about those whose won't is to remove the Sefer Torah from its ark at the close of the holiday, respectively. That's one thing. And I think there's various rulings actually brought from various other different great rabbis of various. Abraham ben Natan, I think 12th century, writes in Haminhag that the French rite is that they make large celebrations, the entire community in the homes of the honorees, because it's Simchat Torah. Another 13th century rabbi, someone with the name Rabbi Tzedekah ben Avram Ano, he was a 13th century, he writes in Shubalei Aleket, it's called Simchat Torah, the custom for the Chatan Torah, to make a feast and to distribute sweets in of itself. They were talked about, there was different customs in different places also. I think, yeah, very, very interesting. Symbolism, we see different symbolisms on this specific day in of itself. In Chabad Hasidic, the traditional dancing with the Torah allows the Jews to act as the feet of the Torah, taking the Torah where it wishes to go, let's just say, in of itself, symbol of identity. For example, the Jews of the Soviet Union, in particular, would celebrate the festival en masse in the streets of Moscow. I think in 1973, 100,000 Jews took part in a post-Simchat Torah rally in New York City, for example. That's another thing. Various, I think, commemorations in Israel with regards to Simchat Torah include very much the Postal Authority issued a postage stamp in honor of the holiday. Now, the Vilna Gaon said that V'samachta b'chagecha, you shall rejoice in your festival, is the most difficult commandment in the Torah, actually. And that's what he talks about. So I'd recommend everyone to look into that also. Very, very interesting. Let's explore a few of the different halachot with regards to say. We can try to do this very, very quickly. At the moment, just give me 1 minute break. You can just see the sukkah for a second. And maybe I'll hold her for 5 minutes. Give it to me. I'm not going to put it on the video. Okay. She'll just be outside.
Listen, I need to know. What?
No, wait, so can you put the titles in the video? Okay, so I'm going to shoot I'll try not to put it in. Okay. Okay, friends, I'm just coming back. Welcome everyone to the sukkah. Okay, just got the baby with me now. I'll try. My wife doesn't really like she's in, so there's going to be just a tiny bit of noise now over here inside the sukkah. But let's talk about some of the halachot over here. She's waving to you guys over here. So let's talk about sitting in the sukkah on the 7th day of Sukkot. Obviously, one may not take down the sukkah on Hoshana Rabbah. However, one may remove his valuables and necessary furniture for Yom Tov and for Mincha Ketana. That's another thing. One who will need to eat in the sukkah on Shemini Atzeret should remove 4 tefachim by 4 tefachim of schach. While this does not invalidate the sukkah, it serves as enough of a reminder that one is not sitting in the sukkah in order to fulfill a mitzvah. This is using notes of the OU website of Rabbi Yonatan Nachson, respectively, over here, so which I'm using at the moment. Now, I recommend everyone to look at it. There's a lot of sources also on this specific page, which I also have to point out. Okay, after the Chag, one may sleep and eat in the sukkah, even if he did not remove any of the schach. This is all sourced over here. I will actually try and bring the source for this specific point. It's a third source over here on the article. I think it actually comes from the Yabiyama in chapter 9, number 62, respectively. Number 4, before leaving the sukkah for the last time for Simchat Torah, it's customary to read these words. Very, very important. This actually is brought down in the Ramah in 567 number 1 over here. Okay, now using the sukkah and its decorations on Shemini Atzeret, are you allowed to do that or not? This is another question, let's just say, on this specific time. Okay, the sukkah and its decorations may not be used on Shemini Atzeret, even if Shabbat is on Motzei Yom Tov. One may not use the sukkah or its decorations until Motzei Shabbat. If one is afraid that decorations will get damaged or stolen if he leaves them in the sukkah on Shemini Atzeret and Simchat Torah, he may remove them on Hoshana Rabbah. Okay, so that is going to be allowed. I think Chazon Ovadia brings it out on page 92 with regards to the laws of Sukkot. Tefillot for Shemini Atzeret. Okay, if one remembers on Shemini Atzeret that he forgot to recite Ya'aleh V'Yavo during the last mincha of Chol HaMoed, he does not have to repeat the Amidah that night, since one does not gain by reciting the Shemini Esrei. The poskim dispute whether one has fulfilled his obligation of reciting Mincha on Chol HaMoed without Ya'aleh V'Yavo. That's a whole topic on itself. But more is brought on. On Shemini Atzeret night, chapter 12 of Tehillim, La'manatzech ala Shminit is recited before Arvit. Very important. Now, number 9. Throughout Shemini Atzeret, one should recite Et Yom Shemini Chag Atzeret during the Shemini Esrei, during the Amidah, respectively. That's very, very important to know. However, so that's another fact. One must repeat I'm just giving the highlights of the article. I'm not going to read over everything because time is pushing at the moment. One must repeat Kaddish on Shemini Atzeret if he accidentally recited Kiddush for Sukkot. Very interesting. Oh, sorry, Kiddush. If one is unsure if he recited Hasi'enu after Ya'aleh, or if he continued with Va'ata Barachameh Chacharabim, like one regularly would do during Chol Hamoed or Rosh Chodesh, he should go back to the beginning of Vasi'enu. And if he's already finished Amidah, he must recite it again over here. Now, the source for that over here is Chazon Ovadia Sukkot, page 454. Okay, even those who regularly stand during the Kaddish before Baruch on Friday night, do not have to stand during the Kaddish on the night of Shemini Atzeret. Kiddush for Shemini Atzeret. One should not recite Kiddush for Shemini Atzeret until Set HaKochavim. During Kiddush, Shechianu is recited because Shemini Atzeret is obviously its own holiday, like we said before. A Ben Chutzaretz must eat in the sukkah on Shemini Atzeret without reciting a Lesheb B'Sukkah over here. If a Ben Chutzaretz is in Eretz Yisrael for Shemini Atzeret, he'll feel lonely and uncomfortable sitting in the sukkah by himself while his host, who's Ben Eretz Yisrael, sits inside the house. Or if it will be, let's say, an inconvenience for one's host to come outside the sukkah to bring his guest food, then even a Ben Chutzaretz may eat indoors, let's just say, along with his host on Shemini Atzeret. Okay, there's more actually brought down here, but we're just giving a few of the highlights over here. Now we spoke about we've spoken about the Kriyat Torah over here. Let's just say there's the Ashkenazi custom over here is to read the Torah both on the night of Simchat Torah as well as during the day. However, Sephardic custom is only to read it during the day. During So on Simchat Torah, many aliyot are generally distributed. Therefore, it's customary to repeat the aliyah of Ule Asher Amar. This in Devarim 33, verse 24. Remember, I'm not reading all the halachot which Rav Yonatan Nakson is giving. I'm just saying over a few of them. It's customary in many communities to give an aliyah to all the children together while spreading a talit over them. One of the children recites a bracha and recites over there, Hamalacha Goal Lotzim Korah. Sorry. I think after Aliyah, the Rabbi or Chazan of the community blesses the children with pasuk Hamalacha Goal Oti. And on Simchat Torah, it's allowed to spread a talit over the head of children who get an Aliyah. That's another thing. Also called the Chatan Torah. There are 3 Chatanim on Simchat Torah: Chatan Me'oneh, Chatan Torah, and also the Chatan Bereshit. Chatan Me'oneh reads from Devarim 33, 27 to 29. Chatan Torah, it gets Aliyah before the person is called up on the Aliyah, in which the end of Parshat V'Sata Bracha is read, is called Chatan Torah, respectively. The one who is called up for the Aliyah in which Bereshit is read is Chatan Bereshit. And they say over here, the nicest Sefer Torah should be used for the reading of V'Sata Bracha. Okay, since many brachot will be recited over it, and it is the Torah that the Chatan Torah receives an aliyah, which is the most respected aliyah of the day. Very interesting. What's the source for that? Number 29 over here, according to this. That would come from, I believe, Sukkot Sion, page 369. Very interesting enough. Okay, now a few other things. They say one who is not married is permitted to receive Chatan Torah. I'm not sure why that wouldn't. Even an Evel may become a Chatan Torah. 2 brothers or father and son may receive the aliyot of Chatan Torah and Chatan Bereshit, even though 2 brothers or father and son may not normally receive 2 adjacent aliyot. Similarly, 2 priests, 2 kohanim. Also, that's interesting enough. That's a Ben Eretz Yisrael may not receive an aliyah on Yom Tov Sheni in Chutz Haaretz, reported over. Now, after Brachot Bereshit is read, Kaddish is recited. Another Kaddish is recited after Mafteh. Now, a bit Tikkun Geshem, I've spoken about before. What is that? Okay, after Sefer Torah put away, the Chazan, the cantor, begins to recite Tikkun Geshem to commence the recitation of Mashif HaRuach or Morad Geshem during the Musaf Amidah, the prayer over here on Simchat Torah, respectively. That's something else that we also got to point out over here. Very, very interesting. Okay, I'm just putting the baby back on me at the moment. And if one forgot to say Mashiv Baruch and said Mori Tatal, he does not have to repeat the Amidah. However, if one did not yet say Hashem's name in the bracha of Mechayeh HaMeitim, he should return to Mashiv Baruch. Now the Mincha prayer. Now during Mincha of Shemini Atzeret that occurs on Shabbat, Bnei Eretz Yisrael read from Parshat Bereshit and Bnei Chutz Haaretz read from V'Zot HaBracha. Now the Hakafot. On the night of Simchat Torah, after praying Arbit, it's customary to sing, dance, and circle the Bimah 7 times with Sifrei Torah in honor of completing the Torah. This source number 45 over here. I'll tell you where it comes down from. I think Ramayana 669, number 1, and Chazon Ovadia, page 464. of Sukkot will actually speak about, and other various different rabbis also, so that's very interesting. Okay, even though dancing and clapping are generally forbidden on Shabbat and Yom Tov, one may dance and clap on Simchat Torah, even when it's on Shabbat, since Simchat Torah is an exception apparently to the rule. The hakafot should be done counterclockwise, starting from east to north, west, and then south. One may not play music on Simchat Torah. Similarly, one may not shake the rimonim on the Sefer Torah to hear them jingle. Now, it's interesting. Throughout the hakafot, someone should be holding the Sefer Torah. That's important. It is customary to dance with the Sefer Torah, even in the streets, as was said over here. And during the hakafot, if one is too tired to stand, for example, if he is, let's say, ill or elderly, then he may sit between hakafot. However, if he is able, he should stand during hakafot, and while the Sefer Torah are being put away. Now, a Sefer Torah should not be given to a minor or one who could possibly drop it, let's just say. An Avel may circle the bima for the hakafot, but he should not dance. That's what's reported over. Let's get the source over here. The source is number 53 over here for that one. So let's get it. Just that baby is, I think, wants my attention, so I'm going to have to leave in a minute. She's waving to all of you over here. Hello. Chazon Abadi and Sukkot 460. My wife is not so keen on putting the baby on the screen, so I'm not going to put it on at the moment. But you can hear her. She's enjoying the words of Torah, aren't you? Okay. Some communities in Chutz La'aretz have the custom to do hakafot on both Shemini Atzeret and Simchat Torah. Many communities have the custom to do hakafot after mincha and also on Motzei Simchat Torah. Now, where's the source for this one? Over here. So the source for this is number 55 over here, according to these notes I've got. And it's Le David HaEmet book in 26.6, in the name of the Rashash, I believe. Rabbi Shalom Shurabi, if I'm not mistaken. Kaf Chaim will bring it down. The Chol Chai. Also, Rabbeinu Yosef Chaim also brings this out, also respectively. Very interesting. Tachning during Tishrei, also as an extension. Many congregations have the custom to refrain from reciting Tachanun from after Yom Kippur until the second day of Cheshvan. Very interesting. I think that will just be after Rosh Chodesh Cheshvan. And the source for this, if I'm not mistaken, Shulchan Aruch, Orach Chaim 131, number 7. Very interesting. So, Simchat Torah, there's different traditions. I'm not sure about the food traditions and food customs on this specific day in of itself. I'll have to look at that respectively over here. But yeah, nothing like Sukkot at the moment. And we will, I'll leave you actually with some scenes just to see the decorations of the Sukkah, which we've got. You know what, I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes just to enjoy the imbuement of the Sukkah of ours at the moment as we are leaving it. And please, everyone, subscribe to the channel. I'm just going to sort the baby out. I'm going to wish you all a proper goodbye in a minute and just give a goodbye message. So enjoy the decorations of Sukkah for a minute and then come back in just due course. Friends. Give me 1 or 2 minutes. Okay, friends, over here, everyone, thanks for watching. Let me just show you some of the decorations of the Sukkah we have. Also, just to get in the spirit over here. Very interesting. Now, this is, it says, V'samachta b'chagecha over here, as you can see. These are the 7 Ushpizin, which we've had today. Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov, Moshe, Aaron, Yosef, and David. Some pictures of great rabbis also. Rabbi Bad Yosef, Rabbi David Abu Chatzera, Rabbi Reuven Elbaz, Rabbi Shimon Badani, he passed away, I think, 2.5 years ago. Rabbi Elio Bakshi Daron, his Hilur was on Yutet Nisan, he passed away in 2020, I believe. Rabbi David Batsri, Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef was Rishon LeZion, Rabbi Shalom Kohen, Rabbi Meir Mezuz, who actually passed away on, I think it was the last day of Pesach, if I'm not mistaken. Rabbi Ben Sion Mutsafi, great rabbi. Rabbi Shlomo Amar, Rabbi David Pinto, Rabbi Moshe Tzadka, obviously the Rosh Yeshiva of Porat Yosef, Rabbi Ben Yahu Shmueli. Also, I think I'm very distantly related actually to him. You can see over here, Yehi Ratzon Shniskeh, L'Sheh B'Sukkot Orot Shel Leviatan. This is a nice decoration. We've got a trumpet over here. Let's just look at some more of the decorations. We are friends. 1 minute. Over here, we've got the debate. Over here, this is a beautiful picture. You've got more people, some people. Zman Simchat Torah, that's what this festival is also called. We've got Kitol Simra Elokeinu, another gorgeous one. And Yehi Ratzon Sha'alenu B'Simcha La'artzenu V'Samchenu B'Simchat Olam. Nice. One last song. You've got a psalm over here of Hallelujah, where it says Hallelujah, Alu B'Kocho, Alu B'Kirazo, Alu B'Kvortav, Alu Krov Gudlo, Alu B'Teka Shofar, Alu B'Nevel B'Chino, Alu B'Tov HaMachol, Alu B'Nim Megab, Alu B'Tziltzilei Shema, Alu B'Tziltzilei Torah, Kol Nishma Ta'aliyah, Hallelujah. So just a gorgeous sukkah decorations, and this is above where the schach is, respectively. And friends, wishing you all a Chag Sameach, Be'ez Hashem, meaningful Simchat Torah, Shemini Atzeret, wherever you're recording from. Thanks for all the fantastic feedback. Please, everyone, subscribe to the channel now. We're a community, we're growing. Let's try and get to the Hebrew month of Cheshvan with more than 7,500 subscribers. So on this note, wishing you well, Chag Sameach, and thank you everyone for watching. I appreciate everything. Thank you.